Well, hey guys, and welcome to another tier list video from RespShop. I'm Ruben, and I'm here to talk to you about my opinion on full face and hybrid masks that are available to purchase on RespShop.com. Now, before we dive in and take a look at the masks that we're going to be covering today and our tier lists, I just wanted to go over a couple of things real quick. Number one, we're going to be talking about full face and hybrid masks. Now, what are the difference between those two styles of mask? Well, both of them cover your mouth and your nose while you sleep. The difference is how they go across your nose. Now, with a full face mask, it tends to go across the bridge of your nose, so they're a little bit of a larger cushion. Whereas a hybrid mask sits underneath your nostrils, so it's a little lighter, a little less bulky, tends to be more comfortable, but the seal might not be quite as good as one that's a full face mask that goes across the bridge of your nose. So it really depends on what your needs are, which style you should be looking at. Now, another thing I wanted to discuss is just a little disclaimer. In this video, we're not going to dive into the pros or the cons of using a full face mask versus any other kind of nasal or nasal pillow mask. I'm just going to take it that you know that you want a full face mask, and within that category, we're going to look at the various model options and which ones are good for what, and so what might be the best option for you and where I rank them from our tier list of best to worst. So let's go take a look at what models we'll be covering today. All right, so we've got all the big hitters in here from the various brands. We've got the ResMed AirFit F40 and AirTouch F20. I'll get into a little bit of the difference between those two models in just a bit. We have the newest mask on our list here, the ResMed AirFit X30i. That's a hybrid mask. The Philips DreamWear, the Philips Amara View, the ResMed AirFit F30 and F30i, again, very similar. They just attach the tubing in a slightly different spot. Any of the I series masks on ResMed, if you ever see that, that means that the tubing attaches on top of the head, whereas the standard style attaches on the front of the cushion. You've got the Fisher & Paykel Evora and the ResMed AirFit F40, and we're going to put them into these various categories. At the top of our list, the creme de la creme, the best of the best, I'm going to stick those in an absolute dream. Just below that, we've got almost a knockout. We've then got good for a snooze, and then we've got what a nightmare. I've used these tiers a few times. If you can think of some better names for me, please put them in the comments below. I'd like to see that. So, all right, let's take a look at our first one. I'm going to kind of bunch the AirFit F20 and the AirTouch F20 together, and you'll see why in just a sec. Now, either variant of this mask is a full face mask, so it's the kind that will go over the bridge of your nose. Now, this is about as classic of a CPAP mask as you can get, almost an industry standard. It's the kind of mask that you picture when you think of a CPAP mask. They're so solid, so robust, so sturdy, and they really rarely leak. So if you have high pressure therapy, the F20 is a great choice. And in fact, many people that get used to the F20 then try and transfer to a different model of mask, often find they start battling leaks in ways that they never used to when they use the F20. So it's a very popular choice for many CPAP users, especially mouth breathers. So what is the difference between the AirFit and the AirTouch? Well, it comes down to the style of the cushion. The AirFit is the more common style, which is a silicone cushion that is washable, is the sort of standard style that you see on most masks. The AirTouch is a memory foam cushion that you can't wash as easily, that you will need to replace more regularly, but it provides a more comfortable fit. So it tends to be more expensive for consumables going with the AirTouch, but if the extra comfort is important to you, or if you have particularly sensitive skin, then the AirTouch could well be a good option. So where do I rank it on my tier list? Well, it's hard to picture putting this anywhere other than right at the top of the list. It also has a really great connection point at the front that allows for a lot of flexibility. And so it does, although it's a bigger mask, it doesn't feel rigid. It still has that flexibility and give to it. Really, one of the few cons with this mask, obviously other than its size and bulkiness, is that it can rub a little bit on the bridge of your nose. So if you have a nose shape that kind of sticks up at your bridge there, you might find that it rubs and it gets uncomfortable for you. But other than that, these are both extremely solid, dependable masks. So I feel like we have to start off big and put them both in an absolute dream. Either of these, great choices. So up next, the ResMed AirFit X30i. Now, we recently put a video out on this CPAP mask, and the video drew a lot of excitement because the X30i is a pretty unique mask. Now, it's a hybrid mask, which means it sits underneath your nostrils. But most hybrid masks are nasal masks, or nasal cradle as they're sometimes referred to, where there are slits in the top of the cushion that you inhale and exhale through. whereas the X30i actually utilizes pillows. So the two little protrusions that go into your nostrils themselves, which is usually by itself and doesn't include a full mouth covering with it, whereas the X30i does. So if you're a kind of person that likes a hybrid mask but finds that it shifts around a lot, the protrusions of the pillows tends to provide greater stability. So that is a big, unique plus that could be great for a lot of people. However, there are definitely drawbacks to it. Because the protrusions or the pillows are part of the same cushion that covers your whole mouth, they're pretty rigid. And so if it doesn't fit over your mouth well, once those pillows are in place where they need to be, there's very little give. Which means if you have an obscure face shape or you don't fit that sort of face shape that ResMed designed this mask to be fit around, it can quite easily be uncomfortable or cause leaks. Now, this mask is a pretty recent release, but those early adopters were already seeing quite a few people talk about how they're not so reliable for leaks or they're uncomfortable. But those that it does work for will probably very much love this mask. I don't think it's a great fit for a lot of CPAP users, so I can't put it too high in my tier list. So where does this one land? Well, there are a couple other things to mention on the X30i. ResMed do include the quiet diffusion vent on the front of this cushion, which makes this mask pretty quiet for the size of it especially, and so that's a big plus. And also, if you try it out and you don't like that sort of hybrid system where the pillows are with the full face cushion, you can actually swap out that cushion for a cushion from the AirFit F40. So there is a little bit of added flexibility with using this mask, so that's another big plus. However, a big negative of this mask is not only are the people that experience the leaks, but also it's extremely expensive. By far the most expensive mask on this list. The consumables are very expensive too, so unless you have very deep pockets, you might not even want to entertain the X30i in case you really love it and feel like you can't go back to any other style of mask. So for me, right now, the X30i is going to work well for some people, but for most it won't, so it's going to have to go in my good for a snooze category. So next, we have Philips DreamWear. Now, if you've been in the CPAP industry for very long, you'll no doubt know that Philips is not in people's good graces. They're under a lot of scrutiny, in fact, due to some very bad business and ethical decisions that have been made over the last few years. And they've slowly been retreating from this industry ever since, one product at a time. They still only have a couple of CPAP masks left to serve us, the DreamWear being one of those. Now, this was a pretty revolutionary mask at the time of its release. It was the first mask to have that top of head tubing attachment that was great for side sleepers. Now, I think that technology has been more perfected in the years since, so the DreamWear is a little bit outdated at this point, and it does have a fair few shortcomings. Namely, the top of head tubing attachment on the DreamWear is not a click in, click out style, so it takes a little bit more time to put on and off, and it can be a bit fiddly. So if you get up in the night to use the restroom and you want to just quickly connect or disconnect, it's not that easy, and it'll probably wake you up some as you try and fiddle and work it out. So that is definitely an annoyance. It's also not that easy to clean. The seal is pretty good, but it's also quite loud as the tubing runs by your ears. And another big thing is Philips actually had to do a magnet recall on this mask. So if you use a pacemaker, there could be issues there with the magnets interfering. Again, just another recall from Philips, another blotch on their record, not good. So I'm going to put this in good for a snooze because I think it was a noble attempt at a new design. It really did change and move the markers on the industry a little bit with this new style of mask. So kudos for that. But I think there are better top of head attachment choices for masks nowadays. So sticking with Philips, let's take a look at the Amara View. Now I'm going to sound like I'm bashing Philips a lot here. I don't mean to. The Amara View just generally doesn't have really any outstanding features on it. The plastic on it I find to be very hard, so it's not very comfortable. It feels very rigid. It can almost dig into your cheeks, and sometimes the cushion even inverts out, which causes major leaks. And the seal isn't even particularly great. It's okay, but there are better options there as well. The tubing on the front can rotate, but it doesn't swivel all the way around, and the mask seal isn't that reliable at those higher pressures. So all in all, I don't like this mask very much. I do see other people use it and tend to enjoy, some people enjoy it. If that's you, please let me know below what I'm missing about this mask, because I don't really feel like I can fully endorse it as a mask for a first choice if you need a full face mask or a hybrid mask in this case. So I'm putting it in my what a nightmare category. You can find me on that one if you think I'm way off base with that. All right, up next, we've got ResMed's AirFit F40 and the F30i. Now, straight out the bat, the difference between the 30 and the 30i. The I is for ResMed uses that for any of the masks that attach on the top of the head. So that's the main difference between these two. Now, both of these are nasal cradle masks. So they have the slits in the top of the cushion that you breathe in and out of, unlike the X30i, which has the protrusions of those pillows that go into your nostrils. Now, these are both ResMed masks. They're built very well. The quality of materials are good. The silicone cushions are comfortable. They don't easily tear. They make a great option. One big omission, it feels like, with the F30 range is there's no AirTouch variant of this mask. They only have the silicone cushion options, which is a bit of a shame because I do really like the AirTouch feeling of the cushions. And maybe they'll bring one of those out soon. Let's hope that they do. Now, the F30 has air diffusion added to the cushion, which makes it quieter. So that's a big benefit, although it does mean that it is a little harder to clean. Whereas the F30i doesn't have the diffusion, and some people do complain about the noise on the F30i, but it's easy to clean, it's easy to maintain, and there are quite a few benefits with the F30i that a lot of people really do love this mask. Namely, the F30 doesn't have quite the same level of rotation. The swivel joint around the front of the mask is a little bit hard, which isn't ideal for that full range of movement. Whereas the F30i allows side sleepers in particular to move around a lot in the night without getting tangled up, and is a very, very popular top of head attachment mask option. Another slight difference is where the straps sit on the face. With the F30, they're quite close to your eyes, so if you tend to wear glasses in bed while you're watching TV or reading a book while you're wearing the CPAP mask, that might be a little bit trickier, whereas the F30i, those straps bend away a little bit more. Both of these masks are excellent choices. It really kind of comes down to a personal preference if you like that top of head attachment or the front attachment, but because the front attachment isn't quite as maneuverable as some other masks, I'm going to have to dock it a little bit for that. So I'm going to put the F30 in my almost a knockout category, whereas the F30i, I like this one. It's going in my absolute dream. Here you go. I did this last time. Woo! Another inductee into our Hall of Fame. Good job. All right, next we've got the Fisher & Paykel Evora. We have our first representative from the Fisher & Paykel range. I'm a bit of a Fisher & Paykel fan, mostly because I think they're the closest, second best option in a lot of ways to ResMed products, and it's always good to have some healthy competition. And I do think Fisher & Paykel do really try and innovate a lot with their mask design, so big kudos to them for that. Now, the Evora is a mask that a lot of people like. It's very easy to clean, but it's easy to clean because there's lots of different parts to it. So once you get used to disassembling and then reassembling, it's fine. But to begin with, there is a little bit of a learning curve. I find it very comfortable. The materials are good quality and it feels soft against your skin as well. Lots of things to like about this mask. As you know, no mask is perfect. So the Evora does have some shortcomings, one of which is a big one. There are a lot of straps involved with it because of all those parts. It can feel like there's a lot to adjust on it. So some people don't like that about it. Also, there's no air diffusion here, so it's a noisy mask. But the biggest issue is that there's no rotation at the joint and it's pretty stiff. So if you're a side sleeper, this ain't gonna work for you. You'll find that this is too bulky and they won't allow the flexibility of movement that a lot of these other masks would. So if side sleeper, I'd look elsewhere. Back sleeper, this could be a good option, but that does omit a lot of the potential audience. And so I can't fully endorse this one unless you're that specific use case. So I'm gonna pop it in our, somewhere in between these two. I'm gonna throw it in good for a snooze. So last, but certainly not least, is the ResMed AirFit F40. And if you've watched any other of my videos on the channel with this mask, you'll know that I'm a little bit of a fan. So let's talk about that one. Well, firstly, the cushion is entirely made of silicone. There's no plastic involved here, which makes it very soft and very comfortable. Also, ResMed have innovated the tubing that comes across the side of your face to make it quieter. We actually did some testing of this mask versus other ResMed masks, and it is a noticeable improvement of how they've redesigned these. Also, the headgear straps themselves are breathable, so it stays nice and cool and it doesn't cause you to sweat on your skin. I also really like that. Overall, this mask is very comfortable. I like the innovations There's a quick connect on the front of the cushion as well, so getting up in the night to use the restroom is very easy to do on this mask. There's a lot to like about it. However, if you look at reviews online, you'll see that not everybody agrees with me. Mostly those complaints stem from people finding that the mask leaks for them. Also, that comes down to a lot of people, they say, because there's not enough room there between where the mouth and the nose should be in the cushion design. Now, I might have a different shaped head, I don't know. I find it to be very comfortable and it works well for me, and I haven't had those same issues with leaks. So I feel perfectly comfortable fully endorsing this, but just be aware that the overall opinion of this mask from reviews online is not as complimentary as what I'm telling you right now. It's also very quiet. It has some very good diffusion technology to keep this mask noise level down, in addition to the new style of tubing that they've put on it. So I would love to stick this in my absolute dream tier, but I know people wouldn't like that. So I'll do as good as I can. I'll pop it in my almost a knockout. So there we have it. That is my full list of where I think these full face and hybrid masks land on my tier system. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. I love this style of video. It lets us interact and engage more. I'll go look at what some of you guys think, and maybe we can get a dialogue going over some of our opinions. Remember, subscribe to the channel. We'll do more of these tier lists. We'll do more comparison videos, more tips, tricks. We're here to support you in every way we can. Of course, every mask we just spoke about today can be purchased on RespShop.com, where we also offer a 30-day mask guarantee. So if I've just said something about a mask that has perked your interest, give it a shot. Try it out for a few weeks, see if it works well for you. If it doesn't, know that you have that safety net of being able to return it to us for a full refund. Well, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, as always, I wish that you would sleep tight, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.